Welcome to Next Gen Manufacturing. Today, we're getting right into the core blueprint of a modern factory. To really get a handle on where manufacturing is headed next, we first have to understand the timeless DNA that makes the whole thing tick. So let's get right into it. Everything, and I mean everything you need to understand about the modern industrial world is packed into this one powerful idea. In a world with seemingly infinite choice, the entire process, from a rough sketch on a napkin to a package arriving at a doorstep, is all about one person, the customer. And that single shift, well, it changes absolutely everything. So to really unpack this customer-centric universe, we're going to follow the life story of a product. We'll kick things off on what we're calling the new industrial battlefield. Then we'll trace the journey from that first little spark of an idea to an actual product. We'll see how a factory gets built, take a peek inside the engine room where the magic happens, and finally, we'll follow that product all the way through the supply chain and right into your hands. First up, let's set the stage a little. The whole competitive landscape for any company out there today is just radically different than it was even a few decades ago. It's a whole new ballgame, a whole new battlefield. Okay, what's so fascinating here is the massive power shift this slide shows. I mean, think about it. Back in the post-war era, a time the French called the 30 glorious years, if you could just make something, that was pretty much enough. The attitude was basically, hey, we made it, you'll take it. But fast forward to today, we're in a globalized, hyper-competitive world. The customer has all the power, all the choice, and their message is crystal clear. You better serve me better, faster, and with way higher quality. That is the challenge, right there. So, in this world where the customer is king, where does a successful product even come from? Well, it all starts with that little spark of an idea. But believe me, that's just the very first step on a long, long journey to what we can call true innovation. And this right here is such a critical distinction. In the industrial world, an invention in a lab is, well, it's just an invention. It doesn't become an innovation until it's a successful product in the market. The source material is super clear about this. Innovation is the bridge between a cool idea and something a customer actually wants and is willing to pay for. It has to be profitable and it has to solve a real problem for someone. And once that product is out there, it follows this really predictable path, the classic product life cycle. It launches, it grows, it matures, and then inevitably it declines. And the takeaway here is pretty stark, right? Any company that isn't constantly working on the next thing to replace the products that are in decline, well, that company is basically dying. Survival is all about that continuous stream of innovation. Okay, so we've got our killer product idea. But how do you go from an idea to something you can actually hold in your hand? That brings us to this monumental task of actually building the factory, the place where the blueprint becomes a reality. Every industrial company is basically living in two different worlds at the same time. You've got this entrepreneurial mode, which is all about the future. It's about managing change, building new facilities, testing new markets. And then you have the operational mode, which is all about right now, running the current business, handling the day-to-day, and most importantly, generating the profit that pays for everything else. It's a constant, delicate balancing act. Now, the process of building a new factory, what the experts call industrialization, is incredibly complex. It's risky, but you can break it down into these four logical steps. You start with a feasibility study, like, is this even a good idea? Then you move to basic engineering, which is the big picture plan. After that, you dive deep into detailed engineering, where every single nut and bolt is defined. And finally, you get to the construction and that all-important startup phase. All right, our factory's built, the lights are on. Now we're going to step inside and see how you actually manage the engine room of the whole operation, the day-to-day science of producing things efficiently. At the end of the day, managing production is all about managing profitability. It's pretty simple, really. For every dollar of revenue that a product brings in, one slice goes to stuff like raw materials. Another slice covers your fixed costs, labor, keeping the lights on. And whatever's left over, that's your gross margin. That's the profit that fuels the whole company. And the factory manager's job, make that profit slice as big as humanly possible. So what's the difference between a pretty good factory and a truly great one? Well, it comes down to these things. A great factory is never satisfied. It's always getting better. It's flexible, so it can pivot when customer demands change. It has incredibly low defect rates. And this last point is huge. It measures everything. It runs on data, using what our source calls a tableau de bord, basically a master dashboard to track performance relentlessly.
So the product is made, it's perfect, but the journey is not over, not by a long shot. Now it has to navigate this incredibly complex network to get from the factory floor to the customer's front door. Welcome to the world of the customer-driven supply chain.
Okay, and this is so important. The supply chain, which our source calls the order chain, it's not just about trucks and warehouses. It's a strategic system. Think of it like the company's entire central nervous system. And its whole purpose is to manage all the core flows with just one goal, putting the customer smack dab in the middle of everything. The customer's order is the signal that sets the entire system in motion.
So what are these core flows? Well, there are three of them. First, you've got the physical flow of materials, raw stuff coming in, finished products going out. Second is the financial flow, the money needed to build things and the revenue you get back. And third, and maybe most important today, is the flow of communication, customer orders, production data, feedback. A modern company wins by making sure these three flows are perfectly in sync.
So there you have it. This is the fundamental DNA of a modern industrial company. From the customer's first thought to the product in their hand, these principles, innovation, industrialization, supply chain, they're timeless. But the tools are changing faster than ever. So the real question for next-gen manufacturing is this: how are the factories of tomorrow going to use AI, robotics, and big data to build on this blueprint and win?